Hello everyone, Sean Applegate from Erwin here, and welcome to Erwin Insights 2020. I'm pleased to introduce one of our final sessions for the conference, DI06 Data Forensics, with Erwin's Director of Product Marketing, Danny Sandwell. Danny, thanks so much for joining us. I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, thank you, Sean, and everyone who's been attending the conference. Thank you for sticking around. I know this is one of the last sessions, and it's probably been a long run, but hopefully it's been full of good information for you. I think this one will be good as well. It's a topic that's very close to my heart because, you know, in one of my previous lives, one of the iterations was being a human data intelligence facility where I became the go-to to ask, hey, where did this data come from? Hey, what does this data mean? And am I using the correct data? So, you know, it was good for me. It was guaranteed employment, but I'm excited to be talking about how far we've come in that topic, probably over the last 20 years before that, since that part of my career. So what are we going to look at? Well, you know, when we talk about data forensics, and I know, you know, there is an actual discipline about data forensics, which is about, you know, using data and to fight crime. This is not that specific, so we're using the term forensics, you know, in a little bit more of a less literal way. But really, it's about, you know, getting to the details and drilling down into all aspects of the data. To really understand it and assure that it's the right data to be used for the purpose that we have. So when we look at the agenda, what we're going to go through today, we'll start off by just exploring the state of data, data intelligence and data literacy, and really look at what's going on out there in the industry. And I think it'll be a good benchmark for you to take a look at where you are as an organization, both in terms of the complexity of your environment, as well as, you know, the plans moving forward to really democratize data across the organization. We'll take a look at the role and the value specifically of data lineage. This is one of the real powers of the Erwin Data Intelligence Suite. And you know, based on feedback from you, our users, our prospects, as well as experts in the industry, it is something that we do very well and has a lot of utility to bring value to organizations. We'll look at the mechanics of establishing and maintaining accurate lineage for all of the different stakeholders, you know, and different use cases that lineage can assist in the organization. And then finally, we'll look at how, you know, with Erwin DI, you're not just getting lineage, but you're actually activating that data lineage to increase the business value in all aspects of your enterprise. So with that, let's get into it. So, you know, this slide, you've probably seen it maybe in a couple of other sessions, but, you know, the reason I like to put that there is because it really talks about how, you know, data has become an integral part of every aspect of the business, right? It's no longer just, you know, measuring how we did this year versus last year. There's being data accessed for just about every function in the organization. And if those functions aren't leveraging data, excuse me, then they probably could be and could probably benefit from it. So from that perspective, you know, it's just great to see, you know, through my career, how data has become sort of, you know, what was seen as a byproduct to a really, you know, at the core of the value of what technology and IT and data management can bring to an organization in terms of really transforming their capability, driving innovation, assuring things like business continuity, and quite frankly, you know, allowing them to really focus on spending the dollars in the place that have the most impact and getting the biggest bang from the buck for money that is spent to move the business forward. So, you know, data is everywhere. Data is ubiquitous. But with every, upside, as always in life, there's the corresponding downside, and that's what we refer to as the enterprise data dilemma. IDC is calling it the data dilemma, and they did some surveys looking at organizations and really trying to get a sense of what's going on there around data management and data consumption and data usage in the organization. And it's pretty eye-opening numbers. And again, a great benchmark for those of you that are watching this to look at where your organization sits among similar organizations, organizations that are in your business verticals, but across the entire spectrum of business out there. So 45 zettabytes of data created in 2019 and expected to grow at 26% compounded annually. And I think that that's still fairly conservative because, every day there's new sources of data that are coming online and can be of potential value to a business. So, and that data is being created at every level of society, at the business level, at the production level, at the consumption level. And quite frankly, there's all sorts of good information that's out there that's at the sentiment level of people that you would want to potentially be your customers. So lots of data out there, which is a good thing. Lots of opportunity behind it, but challenges that come with it. 95% of organizations integrating up to 6 different types of data. And in order to manage that at approximate or at an average of 10 different types of data management technologies that they have to bring together in order to deliver value to the business. So it's not this nicely bound box that data goes into and then comes out for everyone to use. That would obviously be where we would like to get. But the reality is that the nature of data, the different types of data, and the different uses of data will always require that type of complexity. And then it becomes our job to reduce that complexity or mask that complexity so that the folks that don't need to be concerned with it are not impacted by it. 94% of organizations surveyed in 2019 were integrating data across hybrid cloud environments. So, some level of on-premise and then, some level of cloud, whether that's, having Salesforce up on the cloud or specific applications. But as we see, organizations like Microsoft, Snowflake, Amazon Web Services, and so many more, where that cloud is now maturing to become more than just a different set of infrastructure that has some economic and continuity benefits. To becoming very much integrated capabilities around data that in itself takes out some of that complexity and provides a high performance, high powered environment for people to really do a better job with data for their organizations. As we dig a little deeper, and look at the effects of that complexity and the state of intelligence around that, it's really having, an impact on the efficiency and effectiveness of native data workers. So, there's a lot of folks out there, and, native data workers are no longer just the, the database administrators or the data architects or the, integration architects, integration developers. This is now, citizen data analysts, citizen data scientists that are working with data every day, and it's at the core of the value that they can bring to their organizations. But being impacted by this complexity or this dilemma as we talk about it. It's been recognized over the last few years that there's a very poor ratio in place when it comes to the time spent preparing data and the time spent actually delivering insights, actionable insights and valuable insights to the business from that data. So that 80-20 rule or 80-20 ratio, where we're spending 80% of our time just trying to figure out what data we have, where is it, how can I get access to it, is it the right data for the job that I want to employ it for, and 20% of the time actually delivering insights that management can take and leverage to improve the business, to take the business to that next stage. And the sad part is that ratio is going in the wrong direction. 85-15 now. And I've seen, different statistics outside of IDC that says it's actually at 90-10, and that's a ratio that just cannot stand, right? It's not cost effective. It's not enabling the time to value that's required in today's fast-paced business world, with all of the competitive pressure, the opportunities that are there, but are only there for a time-bound period where you can take advantage of that and actually leverage that for full value. And then this last one was really eye-opening to me. Maybe not for you in your organization, but when you think about it in terms of in general, most data native workers are more unsuccessful than they are successful in their tasks. And that to me is just incredible. We have been working so hard for so long to try to reduce deployed defects with the visibility of the things that we develop from an IT perspective to support the business. It's been much more transparent to customers, to partners in the business, other people in the ecosystem, as the nature of this technology changes. And to hear that we are failing more than we're succeeding is really incredible to me, because that's wasted time, again, missed opportunities, and quite frankly, a potential impact on the reputation of your business in terms of being perceived as someone who has their arms around and understands their business, the data that serves their business, and is a good partner in maintaining the data of, especially personally identifiable data of different people around the world. So these are all real challenges, and they all point to the need for data intelligence. So looking at that, maybe it's a good time just to sort of remind everybody how, erwin and quite frankly, a good part of the industry is defining data intelligence. It's really about providing a facility that is abstracted enough away from production that doesn't impact the day-to-day operations of the business, but a place where you can harvest information about all of the physical and technical data assets that you have out there, data sources, data movement processes, business intelligence, reporting, and other consumption points. Organizing that in a very effective way to really understand how those things connect to each other, how they're related, and then curating that information to bring semantic value and semantic understanding around that data from a number of different perspectives, whether it's from a very technical perspective for the folks that are managing it, to a very strong business perspective for the people who are consuming it, and quite frankly, a perspective on the value that data puts towards the business. And then, of course, you want to supervise that data. You want to make sure that it's properly locked down with the appropriate policies, rules, how it should be used, how it shouldn't be used. And then the last step being socializing that out for folks to be able to access primarily in a self-service way, to see the data from their perspective, to answer their specific questions in the context of how they look at data, to make them much more fluent and much more capable in terms of delivering value to the organization from data. And at the end of the day, what you really want to do is get all of the different constituencies around data together on a single pane of glass, so that not only can they understand what each other is contributing and doing, and what the roadmap looks like for data in the organization, but really collaborate much more effectively, because they all have nuggets of value to share with each other, that when those things are transparent and shared, that everyone becomes better at what they do. So, people who are developing data, the better understanding of how that data could be potentially used, they will be able to build a better mousetrap. Data operations will be able to better understand how to make sure that data is always available for the folks that need it, and available in a way that's easy for them to get. And of course, the governance folks and the consumption folks, making sure that we are doing right by the business, right by our customers, and right by the data that drives our business, so that the proper data is being used in the proper way, and we're not putting the business at risk through those usage patterns. So that's data intelligence in a nutshell. So drilling down another level, and looking at data literacy in our solution, we offer something called the data literacy suite. It goes alongside of our catalog, but data literacy actually as a practice sort of covers the whole enchilada. And when we look at what Gartner's saying about data literacy, it really does align very well with the information that came from IDC, which is 50% of organizations will lack sufficient, artificial intelligence and data literacy skills to achieve true business value with their data, to really take advantage of all the opportunities that data can enable for them. And by 2020, 80% of the organizations will be at some stage of initiating a deliberate competency around data literacy, to really be part of overcoming these extreme deficiencies that we've talked about. So and you look at the quote at the bottom, it's not just about educating professionals who are involved in crafting data-driven products and services. It's making sure that everyone across the organization can be an active participant in a conversation that is being formed using the language of data, because that's where the real value comes. When it becomes second nature to folks, and they don't have to go back and say, oh, what's that? Take a look and then come back. They can actually participate and drive things forward because they are natively aware and fluent in their data. That's going to be a really powerful thing, and I think that's what organizations are driving towards. So when we think about determining data's fitness for use, what's behind that? Is it enough to say, find me data around customer, a business term? Well, that's a step towards it. But really, what an organization needs to be truly effective in driving data literacy is, this combination of different artifacts that represent all of the different viewpoints around data, so that people can have a one-stop shop and understand all of these aspects, in concert with each other, in order to truly become capable and really drive value. So, it starts with understanding what's the physical data that you have out there. What data sources do we have? What's their location? What elements are in it? What are the structures? Who's using it? All of that kind of information. And then you augment that and curate it with semantics, business data terminology. We just had a session with Microsoft and the common data model, and the power that that's going to bring to start taking best practices and standardization and around the way that we curate data and really drive visibility into understanding that data. But it goes beyond terminology to policy, rules, classifications, and any other type of tagging that will help people understand why this data is appropriate, how it's potentially different, and any nuance around that data that's going to help them be more effective with it. Organizations need to be able to drill into those data characteristics, profile the data, understand the quality behind that data, because again, just because data is coming from a source, if it's of a low quality, that will impact your decision on whether you want to use it or how you want to use that. And then driving all of this and really linking it all together is a very, very important component, which is data lineage impact analysis, right? So where did my data come from? Those are the things, and you'll find, and we're going to drill specifically into the value of data lineage in this and how it drives out all sorts of different value based on the utility of the environment that we use to capture, discover, and render lineage, and then the byproducts that come from that lineage. And it's not just us saying it. We went out and did some surveys of our own, talking to you folks and folks, in the same roles and having the same responsibilities of you, and looking at what are the bottlenecks to the data value chain. The data pipelines, the usage of data, and the derivation of value from that data. And not head and shoulders, but absolutely in the lead is the challenge behind documenting complete data lineage, followed by understanding the quality of source data. And then, of course, the impact of that data. So this is something that's common across the board. There's lots of different solutions out there that will try to provide you a capability around data lineage. Some of them use inference and some level of AI and machine learning. Other folks, others really are very, very manual based. As we drill into the mechanics of what we do with lineage, I think we'll be able to show you how we do it. I think different and in a much more effective way than a lot of other organizations. But at the end of the day, this is something that's important, and it's something that's getting in the way of success for 62% of the organizations that we surveyed, and even more than that as we go anecdotally out to the customers and prospects that we talk to. So, what is the role of data provenance and data lineage? Some people use these things interchangeably. They are slightly different. Provenance says, where was something created? And that's very important, because this goes beyond, what does it mean to the business? Now we're getting down into the mechanics of, did it come from the right place? Is this the gold source of information that we might want to have? So very important there. And then, of course, it gives you visibility into the journey of data throughout the organization, because data does not just move from place to place and stay static. For many, many different reasons, both technical and business, data also gets transformed. And that's an important thing to understand in terms of when it got transformed, how it got transformed, because that may impact the applicability of a hypothesis or set of assumptions that you're making as you analyze data and try to get a result out of that. So it's very, very important to help people understand where they're accessing that data, where it came from, how it's changed since it's created. Where did those transformations occur, and what were the details behind that? And of course, who's responsible for that data across that flow at different stages? And then the natural next piece, which is there more related data around that I could potentially utilize for business value? So really, data lineage is about establishing trust in data and insights. So, you've got the physical metadata, what the data looks like, how it's stored, how it's structured. You've got the business context and terminology and rules around that. But this is that last piece, which is, how did it get here? and should I trust it? Is it still in a state that's going to be appropriate and applicable for what I want to do? So, understanding the provenance and pedigree, identifying that journey, identifying where it deviates, and this is going to be important as we start looking at some use cases, and really assisting the organization to start assess and articulate the impact and value of data in the organization. And of course, if you're doing lineage right, it can also help you, establish and start to gain value from your governance, data intelligence, and garner other operational efficiencies, as you'll see as we go through the presentation. So, some common lineage users and use case, and this is by no means exhaustive in its nature, but I think it kind of gives you a view across that spectrum of different constituencies around data and how lineage is important to them. So, the data architect, this is my background. This is a classic one for me to understand. They've been tasked with implementing a data lake at the in the organization. In the past, we had a traditional data warehouse. We may have had some staging areas, but data was moving there. And, the nature and the challenge of historical data warehouses is that it generally doesn't represent native data. It's been changed in some way, either to meet the technical needs and architecture of the warehouse, or for the original use cases that the warehouse and maybe the March architecture was aimed at. So now they've got to pop in a data lake. So, right off the bat, they're going to want to understand how data is flowing to the existing warehouse today, and then where they need to intercept that data in order to get it into its, raw state, have it stored there so that it can be used for multiple purposes, and really, move from what we would call an ETL to an ELT type approach, where we always have that historical raw native data available for us to do the things that we might need to do moving forward. The data steward, lots of responsibilities for a data steward, and no small part of that is looking at sensitive data and making sure that it's properly identified and classified through the entire data lifecycle, so that they can enforce, the privacy and security, technological protections in place, but also understand and push out to the larger community an understanding of the types of data that they're using, its sensitivity, and how it should or shouldn't be used. Finally, there's the data scientist that's looking to grab and collect a specific targeted data set to answer a very specific, or maybe not so specific, business question using advanced analytics. So they really are looking at driving the business forward using data. This is the pointy end of the stick. Again, they need lineage to really understand where the data is coming from, and again, make sure that it's the appropriate data, and help them on that journey of figuring out, how they could potentially, build out those algorithms and that analysis to be more valuable based on other data elements that may be associated following that same journey that they weren't aware of. So, and we'll talk about these and other use cases as we look at the details of lineage, going forward here. So, at the basis of it, and I think this is important for folks to understand that there's mechanics behind lineage, specifically in our solution, and an approach that we take that is really quite differentiated from a lot of our competitors and a lot of other offerings that are out there. And at the core of it, it's really about understanding data mappings at a granular level, right? So how data gets from one point to the next point, either physically or conceptually to begin with. And the way that we do that is through what we call mapping documents. This is, to me, as an old data modeler, the logical model of data movement, right? It's abstracting the business value and the details away from any specific technology so that you can understand it, and a wider range of people can understand it. They don't have to be technically adept to understand it, but also to bring more utility to those mappings and more capability, agility to manipulating those for the betterment of the business. So, in our world, it starts with data movement capture. The best way to get mappings into this environment is to scan and auto document code, and we have our smart connectors that will do that for any ETL environment, ELT environment, modern big data technologies and scripting languages, procedural code, stored procedures, things like that may be in your data sources. We can scan all of that and actually understand what's going on at the source, transformation, and target level. And then we capture that as an abstracted mapping document. Of course, you can also import mappings from delimited files, because people have been doing mappings for a long time. Whether it's in a spreadsheet, it's really about the utility of those mappings in terms of delivering on the big picture. They can also create manually specify mappings, and in our environment, there's great lifecycle control around that those mappings, so that you can have them in all stages of development, testing, and publishment to be what's going on in production. We can even import mappings that have been created and documented in our data modeling tool as part of that data model, ingestion into the larger data intelligence suite. Once you have that source, a transformation, and target, and taken it away from any specific technology, then those mappings really become very, very powerful for a number of tasks in your organization. So lineage rendering. When we do lineage, we don't ask you to create lineage and maintain lineage diagrams. What you do is you create mappings and maintain those mappings, and then we query those things. And the lineage is based on the reality of physical data movement in your organization as it's documented through these different and various ways at a very granular level. It provides the ability to look at impact analysis, both in terms of where data is being used through the organization, but also at the technical level, the statistics behind individual elements of data. How often is it a source? How often it is a target? All of those types of things. And then, of course, automated code generation, whether you're automating your data warehouse and data lake environment in general, whether you're automating, and re-platforming, your data movement processes and your data movement logic, because again, we have smart connectors to auto document. We have smart connectors to automate the code generation, taking you from a potential legacy environment and allowing you to easily and effectively and accurately move that into a more capable technology, the cloud technologies, all of those different technologies that are doing a much better job and are much more capable and much more flexible and agile to move data around your organization. So this is really important at the foundation of understanding how we do lineage and why we do lineage this way, because of the utility those mappings really provide beyond lineage and into all other aspects of your data management infrastructure. And we have a great environment that has a lot of intelligence in it, where you can, easily keep track of those mappings. You can version those mappings. You publish those mappings so that only the latest and greatest information is available for the consumers of that information, while still being able to keep track of projects, provide visibility in terms of how data integration and data movement is changing, providing visibility into that roadmap. Graphical environments, drag and drop, a lot of intelligence and auto mapping capabilities going on. So very, very powerful in documenting and understanding and tying together your environment, but also very, very powerful in driving out improvements through automation to those environments, and through the ability to quickly and adopt and leverage more modern technologies. Now we start to look at the lineage, and again, another aspect that really differentiates what we do around lineage is the flexibility on our lineage and the easy the easy ability to leverage lineage in a way that's meaningful to you for your purposes. So we can generate lineage at 4 different levels. We're going to go through them here. The beauty of how we do that is, again, we go and query the mappings all the way from source right to the BI reporting and other analytics tools that are actually consuming that, and then interpolate those mappings, individual mappings, into a meaningful and useful lineage. So, and when you query at one level, all levels are calculated, so you'll find that you'll be able to easily navigate up and down between the different granular views of lineage, making you much more effective in understanding the lineage and getting value from that lineage in terms of the job that you have to do for the organization. So system level lineage, this can be something where, you don't need to know the details, but you're going in and you're talking to management and saying, where did these numbers come from? Well, we know at a system level, which systems are feeding this report, and that may answer that question. So, for a data steward that's trying to understand general flow, for a data owner that may be, answering to management around the data, or for an end user that has reports that they go and, gee whiz, suddenly that report doesn't map up with somebody else's, and they inevitably get asked the question, where did the data come from? Environment level lineage, well, this kind of, is drilling down to folks that are, again, potentially useful at the front end stage for analysts and scientists to make sure that they're getting it from the right environment with a system, because the system may have different instances out there, whether it's, design or development, production, and test, those types of things. You want to make sure that you've got the best source of that data and be able to understand which of the environments that may be sitting under one of those systems is the one that I should be using. So again, the right level of granularity to answer the questions that you have. Now we're drilling down into table level lineage, and I've done a table level lineage here with the option of an expanded column view. So, what are the potential use cases for this? Well, obviously somebody who's trying to analyze what data is coming into a mart or a warehouse, at a column level. Think of somebody who's doing master data management, may want to understand how, customer information or whatever the domain that they're trying to master is flowing through. So again, being able to understand and get that, added level of detail of what are the tables where this is, where this data is contained and managed through each step of the process. And then drilling down to a column level lineage, which is really, I want to use this column. Where did it come from? And as you can see with the little red T's, drilling down into the transformations and understanding the nature of what's behind that. So again, multiple views of lineage at the right level of granularity to answer the questions that you might have, but also the ability to go up and down through those levels of granularity with a single query. And you can query, as you'll see, lineage from anywhere within our solution. And there's lots of ways to get to that, and we're going to cover that as well. Optimizing lineage analysis, exposing the details. So, as simple as being able to hover over a transformation and start to get that detail, and then drill down from that detail into the specific mappings that actually implement that. So, transformation highlighting, very, very important. Looking at, optimizing lineage analysis from a visualization perspective, because again, although we have multiple views of detail, there's also a lot of things that could potentially be in a lineage that's important to an ETL developer or an architect. A lot of staging tables and things where, some mechanics get done in the background, but not important at all to a business user, because they don't care that we, switch the widget over here and switch the widget. They want to know the sort of business systems that it comes through. So you can easily, filter out noise based on your needs and your requirements. You can also, hover over and highlight and drill down in a complex diagram and see the individual flow that you're concerned with very easy using our technology. So very, very powerful in terms of getting the most out of Lineage, with regards to your usage of it, your needs from it, and the ability to access it at a level that works for you. And now we get to, putting that Lineage capability to work, right? So I've selected a use case here where, we have, potentially a element of data that's been identified as, sensitive, in one category or another. And now the, data steward wants to make sure that that sensitivity classification follows it all of the ways forward out to the reports and the end users that are consuming it, as well as, is clear and identifiable in the other systems as well, so that if that is being fed to other places, we know that that sensitive data is being handled appropriately, both from a technology and a business perspective. So actually, in our solution, the data steward can then, go in, look at a specific data element that is sensitive, and then leverage Lineage and update that sensitivity across the lineage, right? Where they, select the asset only or all associated assets. So you're actually now using the Lineage to maintain and accelerate the maintenance and creation of that, data governance framework that you need to layer over the data to make sure that when folks are become literate with their data, that they're getting the full story. So again, time accelerator for the data steward, not wasting your time trying to figure out where everything is and going and classifying each of those things individually, doing it in bulk, simple use case here. And there's other things that you can do along Lineage as well. So very much tying that full journey together and giving you the power to make sure that there's consistency and clarity at every step of the way without having to do a lot of physical, manual heavy lifting, and allowing those people that would be doing that heavy lifting to get and move to more high value tasks within their organization. Putting your Lineage capability to work, well, determining data usage and impact. One of the real benefits of the way that we attack Lineage and the way that we manage Lineage for you within our solution is that added utility. So not only can we find out where data is going and where it's being used and how it's traveling, we can start to dig into the statistics behind that. What we're looking at here in terms of the impact of sensitive data across the organization. So the types of sensitive data that we have, the volume of sensitive data that we're managing, and where it is across, the landscape, if you will, to really start looking at analytics, whether it's to, make it a more efficient journey, getting rid of overhead and costs and making sure that we're maintaining the integrity as we go, or to start really understanding which systems and which stages pose risks to the organization, or at the end of the day, taking it to the next level to really, start to build some sort of framework to understand the value of data based on different indicators that come from that sensitivity and usage. And, this is one use case for data usage. We can drill down into other dashboards that will look at, individual columns, what systems it's being used in, which reports it's being used in, how many mappings it's part of, how many times it's a source, how many times it's a target. Again, by taking this approach that enables us to provide detailed lineage, we also provide a lot of other valuable views, metrics, and articulations for people to leverage, and again, make sure that their data mousetrap is as good as it can be, as well understood as it can be, and really enabling them to understand it so that they can move it to what it needs to be in that next stage. And finally, that on-demand lineage from anywhere. There's a lot of views that I could have put on the screen to show you where you can get lineage from, but I really find the value of this business mind map to be extraordinary. For me, it's a real game changer in terms of your ability to navigate and understand the whole view of what's going on around something like a term like customer, but at the same time giving you that ability to navigate and drill down to the specifics that you need very, very easily. So you can use the mind map on something like a business term customer, and really have a clear view of all of the business terms, the business policies around that. If we have other business artifacts or assets that we maintain, they would all be viewed. And then on the left side, looking at all of the physical data, all of the physical data sources, all of the instances where this actually occurs, is an incredible capability to start that literacy and analysis journey. And then drill in to the specific pieces that you want, and then gain the lineage from that. Again, you can get to a lineage view from just about anywhere within our solution, but very, very powerful in terms of how we leverage these visualizations in concert, not just to give you lineage, but to give you that entire data literacy interface that can serve all of the different constituencies in your organization. Think of a data literacy program in your organization, which is more than just somebody having a need and trying to go find out about data, something that's codified in your organization where, onboarding your giving different stakeholders a different view into data as part of their, reception and probation to understand the organization and become effective in a much faster way. Think of this as the front end of that, and the capabilities and possibilities that it represents in terms of allowing people to have true self-service and be able to drill to all aspects of it and understand how it comes together. And then when they find the things that are interesting, to drill down into that lineage. So I just wanted to give you that view because, again, all of these things work together to make you much more efficient, much more effective in that 80% side of the data data preparation equation, to reduce that 80% side because of that visualization and then that natural capability to get to what it is that's important to you, to allow you to deliver value to the business. So with that, I think we're getting close to the end here. So, I think I've probably beaten it to death in terms of the importance of lineage as part of literacy and the importance of literacy as a true enabler for a data-driven approach that's sustainable over time. So bringing all of these pieces together and allowing them to act in concert is really what's required to achieve true data intelligence. I hope I've given you some visibility into some of the things that we do very well that allow you to become more literate across the organization, to understand the provenance and lineage of data as part of that literacy, and the mechanics behind that and why it's a better way to do things. Because, again, everything that you're providing to your users through this solution is based on things that are going on in the real world. They are not inferred. They are not, we think this data is coming from here based on some sort of algorithm. There is a physical process moving data from point A to point B and applying these operations on it. We have that fully documented, and then the ability to drive that out to you in ways that are meaningful and valuable for anyone across your data estate, regardless of the role, so that they can become better data citizens, and spend more of their time delivering business value from that data, as opposed to, as I like to say, lifting rocks. With that, I think we could go to a question if we have any, Sean.
Okay, Danny, thank you very much for that presentation on lineage and literacy. We have a few follow-up questions. Firstly, can lineage details and diagrams be shared with other folks that don't have access to DI?
Absolutely. All of our lineage views have the ability to produce a report that can give you the, some of the textual or, details, as well as a PDF diagram of that lineage. Obviously we want you to use that appropriately. This is a point in time, because our lineage is very, very dynamic. If something changes in the background, and you've queried a lineage today and something changes overnight and new mappings are deployed, that lineage is updated and really represents the most current thing. But if you're in, say, a project or putting together a business case to justify some sort of project, and you need to do some basic analysis up front, absolutely you can take, the tool allows you to publish those point-in-time snapshots and leverage those for whatever reason that you might want to use them within the organization.
Well, thank you. What is the difference between lineage views and the mind map?
Yeah, that's a great question, because there tends to be some overlap and confusion in terms of the usage of it. So, lineage is really a drill down into how data moves and how it's transformed across the journey. So lineage would be, a physical column in a report or a dashboard, and then showing how that physical column is fed. That's what lineage represents to you. You can have other information around that, but for the most part, it is really about the journey of data. The mind map is really more of a sort of holistic view around all aspects of a particular piece of your data governance or business data framework, if you will, or landscape. So whereas lineage for a customer ID will go back and show you all of the systems, environments, tables that it sat in, how it moved from one stage to the other, the transformation behind it. Whereas the mind map takes you much farther. It'll show you all of the semantics and terminology that might be associated with that physical asset, all of the policies that may apply or business rules that may apply to the maintenance or usage of that aspect. So not necessarily part of the data journey, but equally important. And they work very well together. So one is sort of a big picture view that you can shrink down or filter out as much as you want to drill down to the details. And then lineage, once you get down to a specific element or set of elements that you're interested in, lineage will then explain that journey. So they work very, very well together, very visual in nature, and have some similarities. But one, again, is flow. Data lineage is flow. Mind map is really about connectivity, association of those assets, and the framework that supports that data as it flows through that journey.
Okay. Can data models be included in lineage discovery?
Yes. And that's something that we hear more and more from our customers. Obviously, we have a rich, foundation in our data modeling capabilities, and they're wanting to see more of the information in those data models in the data intelligence suite. So, we've got a very, very powerful automated integration between those two things, and data models are another piece of physical metadata. So you can map data models, or they may have mappings within them, and we can leverage those mappings. But you can map metadata from a data model just like you can from a physical data source. So if it's important for you to understand in a view that this database came from this data model, or that this data model is part and parcel of that, you can absolutely incorporate them into the views, both from the mind map perspective, but also from a lineage perspective, so that you can have an understanding of the physical flow, but also the semantic flow as it's gone through that design and deployment process.
Okay, thank you, Danny. That is all the time we have for questions, but Danny will respond directly after the event to anyone who asked questions during the session. And with that, Danny, next slide, please. All right, here we are. With that, we end our time here at Erwin Insights 2020. However, all the sessions from the conference are available on demand for you to watch at any time. So feel free to check out sessions offered in our other 2 tracks, also featuring Danny. There's still time to head over to both our networking lounge and our solution booths to network with other data professionals, ask our experts some questions, and see the latest customer reviews showcased at the IT Central Station booth. We hope the information you've heard at the sessions and the conversations you've had have been valuable to you, and we thank you for attending Erwin Insights 2020.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, everyone.